Good afternoon. This is Alexa Morales. I'm here at OpenWorld London, and right now this afternoon I'm joined by Chris Saxon. He's a developer advocate for the Oracle database here in the UK. And Chris, you just gave a talk.
Yes, I gave a talk yesterday.
Yeah. And the point was about tuning SQL queries. Why isn't my query using an index?
Yep.
So I guess the first question is, do we need to take that down to a more elementary level, or do you find, at the point at which you're asking that question, what type of a developer are you, or what type of a DBA are you?
Yeah, okay.
Pretty advanced or not?
So the idea is this is an introductory talk because SQL performance is something that a lot of people struggle with. You send your query to the database and it's a bit of a black box about whether or not it's fast and how to make it quicker. And one of the things a lot of developers and DBAs learn very early is to make a query faster, you need to create an index on it. And they go, okay, we'll create all these indexes, but then some of the times the database decides not to use it, and it's like, well, why didn't it use it? Why did that not improve the performance? So in the talk, I look at some background about the reasons for the optimizer choosing an index, not choosing an index, about having to figure out which is the appropriate approach, which method will actually improve the performance of your SQL.
Right. So now I don't want to get ahead of myself with the autonomous database, so let's just go to some of those reasons. What are the reasons that slow a query down?
Okay, so in the talk I kind of have an analogy. So I got a couple of young daughters. They love chocolate, right? They love like M&Ms, like the multicolored sweets, but it has to specifically be the red ones, right? They don't want anyone. So what are the ways that I can find all the red sweets? Well, there's a couple of ways. I can open every bag, look at every single sweet, see whether or not it's red. If it is, I'll keep it. Other than not, I'll put it back. Or, I can go to the shop, come back and write down location and color of every single sweet. So now I've got a big document that tells me color of every single sweet and where it is. And I can use that to kind of go, okay, I need to find the red ones. Where are the red ones? These are in these bags. And one of the key points is that each time you access an M&M, that's like picking up a row. But I don't just pick up that one M&M. I have to get the bag and pick that up. That's like in a database. You don't just get the one row. You get the block and all the other things it's in. So the more times you access a block, the more times you have to pick up a bag, the more work you're going to do, slower your query is going to be. And at some point, a full, reading all the data reads less, accesses fewer blocks than using an index because you have to come back and pick up the same one many times.
So the index is that document that says where everything is.
Exactly. So the index is telling you, okay, so for these colors, which bags are they in? Which ones do you have to visit? And you might have to pick up the same one many times when using that index. So
okay, again, sort of a newbie, non-DBA question. Obviously, I mean, in the case of an M&M, it's uniform shape. It's just a different color.
Yes.
So there's only one point of data, right? But how do you index a database? It's a person, let's say, but then there's all these different points of data. What do you index on?
So that's a great question because.
I'm brilliant.
No, you are brilliant, Alexa. Okay. So there's a couple of questions that you might answer. So I've got my kids, they really want their red sweets. But, I'm a concerned dad. I don't want to give them candy that's gone off, right? Chocolate does have an expiry date, believe it or not. Right. But so I want to identify anything that's going to expire. Either it has gone past its sell-by date or it will do soon. So I might, I've got two queries there, one on color, one on expiry date. One of those I want to be really super fast. The one where I got my daughter there begging for chocolate, right? I don't care how long the query to find the expired sweets is going to take, because I'll schedule that to run overnight and I'll get an email in the morning. That can run for 5 hours for all I care. So this is where you've got to use your knowledge of the application, the data, what the business goals are, try and figure out how you want to arrange the data, which indexes are most appropriate in which situation. So, and that comes down to your skill as a developer, DBA, knowledge of working with the business, the customers, understanding what their needs are.
So the index is the data is based on that those fields?
Yes.
So an index is based on an individual field or collection of fields?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So okay, I'm understanding the difference between an index and query. So now, when you gave this talk, what kinds of questions did you get from the audience?
So I think there's a lot of people kind of say, well, okay, we've got this how do we get it so we've got the query by expiry date, we've got the query by color. Well, how do we decide which is better? And it's like, you've got to make your trade-offs. You've got to be willing to understand and figure out what those trade-offs are. And a lot of people have questions. It's like, let's say there's different distributions. So normally there's 6 different colors. 6 different colors of M&Ms. But let's imagine there's a promotion, right? And in a small number of bags, there's like a silver sweet. You open that one up, and not only is it silver, but there's some premium rate number you call, you get your supply worth of chocolate, right? So how do you find that? So this same information, we're still looking at the color, but in one situation, we're looking at, a sixth of the data, pretty much all of it. Or in another, we're just accessing one particular row, Same table, same information, but in one case an index might be useful and it might not be. And it's like, this is, again, you've got to look at what your business needs are, what your data is, and try and figure out what's appropriate.
So are the people dealing with the database in this kind of a scenario, sort of the beginners, are they developers, are they DBAs, are they both?
So in the ideal world, the hypothetical theoretical scenario, as part of your development process, you're writing your SQL queries and you're looking at those and saying, well, which of those do we need to create an index on? And so you do that as part of your writing your code. And then you start putting it into test and you do your regression tests and start deploying it. So you've got a whole bunch of indexes. You might identify a few more as you go through your testing phase. In theory, you've found most of your indexes there. And then when you get to production, every now and again, there might be some performance issue that you need to create some new indexes for. That's the theory, right? So in theory, most of this work's done, or a lot of the work's done by developers. DBAs are helping out a bit. However, what happens in reality? Well, typically we create some queries. We might index 1 or 2 critical queries. You say, this one needs to be performant. We'll check and verify that. So we only create 1 or 2 as development. As we go through testing, we might identify a few more. But then we get to production. We end up, bulk of creating the index happens there, and that typically falls on the DBA. And this is bad for a couple of reasons. First up, customers are probably going to have some slow queries, right, before you create those index. Bad user experience, bad for your customers. So you don't want that. But it's also bad for your IT team. If your DBAs or your production support team, whoever that is, spending most of their time firefighting performance issues, well, you're not doing any real work. You're not providing real business value, delivering new functionality. Not great, right? So we've thought about this when it's like, well, you need that expert watching the system to figure out which queries need an index. Brings us to the autonomous stuff.
Right.
So we can say, well, we're going to build that expertise into the database. So in 19C, as part of autonomous offerings, we're looking at automatic indexing. The database will do this analysis of the queries for you.
Wow.
And can create them.
Yeah. And when is 19C coming out?
So 19C is now available on Live SQL. So this is a free browser-based tool you can use to run your own SQL scripts, test out, play around there. Full availability is coming soon. Stay tuned. We're hoping to have that very soon. But if you want to start kicking the tires, playing around, check out Live SQL, livesql.oracle.com. Sign in with the SSO. You can play around with scripts on there.
Well, that's great. I think I've learned a lot, mainly about M&Ms, but also about tuning indexes, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out. The autonomous database now, we're looking at how long? A year or less than a year?
I forget exactly. It's around a year.
Yeah, so it's been out there, and I think it's definitely changing the world. No. So thank you so much, Chris, for joining me. Thanks for watching Oracle Groundbreakers Live. Stay tuned for more interviews as the day progresses here from London.